So, good morning, everyone. We're going to talk today about composting organic waste at state and municipal buildings in New York, led by our faculty advisor, Dr. Stephen Coy. So, I'm going to walk you through a set of questions we have asked during this term. So, I hope that after the presentation, you can get a really good sense of what this bill is about. So, we're going to start first with what is the bill about, what is the current problem, what solutions does the bill propose? Is it an effective solution? And what are the key takeaways of this briefing? Followed by a Q&A section. So what is the bill about? The bill is about diverting organic waste from landfills in order to use it to generate other byproducts and also mitigate environmental impacts. So I want to clarify that this bill is mostly about upstate New York, given that New York City is it's more ahead on managing organic waste than the entire state. So the bill requires New York State and municipal agencies to establish composting programs in agencies' buildings, then arrange for the collection of this compostable waste, and annually report the cost and effectiveness of this program to the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. What are these buildings I'm talking about? They are the government offices, the emergency services, transportation, a school, historical landmarks, and hospitals. Just so that you can get an idea of how much is this, 1.69 million pounds of organic waste are generated each day just by the public buildings in New York State. So, by mandating organic waste management in these states and buildings, we can reduce greenhouse gases and pollution, and hopefully, in the future, it can open the door to translate it or transition it into households, businesses, and industries. So, what is the current problem New York State is facing? Let's look at this image. We see how the landfill is affecting the soil, the water, the air. Let's think about the food we eat, the air we breathe, then the water we take. These all have been impacted by landfillings at some point. Landfills contain leachate, which pollutes the soil and the water. It also contains heavy metals and chemicals that also bioaccumulate in the food chains, therefore causing public health issues. Also, it emits greenhouse gases, mostly methane and CO2. So just so that you can know some data, 66% of all the New York State methane emissions come from landfills, and 7% of all New York State's greenhouse gases emissions also come from landfills. And also, as we know, to create these landfills, we have to cut off a lot of forest land that right now has consumed over 15,000 acres of land. This map shows us where are the landfills located in New York State, where you can see them in the orange dots, and also you can see how the median household income between each county, it goes from the darkest one representing the higher median household incomes to the more lighter ones that represent the lower income median household incomes. As you can see, most of the landfills are located in the lower median household incomes of the New York State counties. So, as New York State defines organic waste as a distinct category of municipal waste, it can have its own unique handling processes and also address the unique challenges that are arising from landfilling organic waste and therefore improve the quality of life of the surrounding communities. Okay, so decomposition in landfills is mostly generated in an uncontrolled environment, emitting greenhouse gases and pollutants directly to the air, the soil, and the water. And our team, as a solution, has proposed these two solutions that we think are the most effective in take in approaching this composting program. The first one is composting. Composting is when organic waste is broken down and recycled into compost, which can be used to supplement soil nutrition. And the second one is anaerobic digestion, which breaks down organic waste and forms biogas, which is captured methane, and also digested, which can also be used into a fertilizer. As you can see, all of this, the two solutions and the problem, have very similar outputs. The difference is that while landfilling emits methane and carbon dioxide to the atmosphere, composting and anaerobic digestion use this methane and carbon dioxide to make byproducts such as biogas, digestate, and compost. Well, is it an effective solution? There's no question about it. Here in this graph, we can see how landfilling emits 100 times more of methane than composting and 10 times more methane than anaerobic digestion. But as every solution, no solution is magic, so it also comes with unintended environmental impacts regarding greenhouse emissions, air pollution, water pollution, and soil toxicity. So here, in this very condensed map, what we're trying to show you is that in almost every output of the process, we have some research gaps. We have gaps related to the composition of organic waste, the quality of the fertilizers that are byproducts of the composting, the final handling of the liquid digestate of the composting process, and the environmental impacts of biogas that are as a product of the anaerobic digestion. There's no question about it if the solutions are better than the actual problem, but given that we haven't had a lot of experience with composting and anaerobic digestion, we just don't know how much. We also started similar cases in California State's bill, Italy's legislation decree, and Washington State's organic management law, and by reviewing these bills, we came to the conclusion that these were the most effective key scientific indicators for success. These are the ones that are easier to measure, also easier to understand, and most of all, require less expertise to be able to measure them. And the key scientific indicators are how much organic waste is separated, how much has been a reduction in the leachate, how much we have seen a reduction in greenhouse gases emissions, and on the other hand, how much biogas is produced by anaerobic digestion, and how much compost is produced by the composting process. So, what are the key takeaways of this briefing? This bill intends to redirect organic waste from landfills by requiring composting programs to state and municipal buildings. Also, as Dr. Steve Cohen says policy is about making the problem, not about solving the entire problem, just making it less bad. So it is widely accepted that these solutions are better for the environment, it's just that the impact is still unknown. Also, by enacting and implementing these bills, it could also facilitate a smoother transition into other sectors such as households, industries, private buildings. And last but not least, this approach not only addresses climate mitigation, but also contributes to improve public health and habitat conservation. Here in the background, we can see a photo that our friend Celine took in last week's visit to Shirley Chisholm State Park led by Dr. Matt Palmer, where we can see how landfill was converted into this amazing state park, improving the quality of life of the communities around. And here I want to proudly say we're Dr. Cohen's first completely international team, also showing the efforts this program has made in diversifying our cohort. So we're representing almost every continent in the world. And I also want to thank my teammates for putting all their efforts in analyzing the science behind this bill. Thank you so much. Any questions?
Thank you for your presentation. So we learned that it is possible to use the methane from the anaerobic digestion process and put it back into the household grid or maybe the industrial grid. And I was wondering whether there's any plan to also include that in the building of these digester acts that your bill is planning.
Great question. So the bill is requiring a composting program for these buildings. It just doesn't define or doesn't requires an exact composting program, so they can choose if they prefer composting or anaerobic digestion. Also, in the reports they have to do annually in the cost and effectiveness, it's also a good point to show that maybe if they can sell this methane to another company, maybe it can also like give benefits to the building or the agency behind the building. Thank you. Thank you.